Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Financial Advocate Podcast. This is Colin Meeks, and I'm here with Ryan Stark, and today it's just the two of us. We're not interviewing any worthy experts today, so we're going to talk about what we know about, and financial planning is going to be the topic. And I wanted to talk to you about three things that we see, and there's more than three, but three of the most common things that we see that sort of blow up a financial plan. There's more than three though, right, Ryan?
I would say, yeah.
And we say blow up, meaning that, not necessarily like a huge explosion, but three things that sort of can really get you off track. So we're going to take a few minutes and go through each one of those, and hopefully they'll resonate with you. And if you are in the financial planning process, or if you think you might need somebody to sit down with you and go over things, we're always available for that. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, we've got our contact information on this podcast at the beginning, at the end, and if you'd just like to have a conversation with us on the phone, we're more than happy to do that. So the first thing that we see a lot of times, and we all go into certain situations that we think we know what we're doing. And some of that, sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not. But we always like to tell people that you need to empty your cup a little bit. And when I say empty your cup, what that means is we want you to pour a little bit out of what you know and sort of come in with more of an open mind. Ryan, we see a lot of people that come into our office that sort of, they read Money Magazine, they read the Wall Street Journal, they watch all the news shows, and they just come, firing right away everything they know.
Right.
And that doesn't really ever work out too well.
I agree. And it's kind of that we appreciate, obviously, once you have enough knowledge and appreciate exactly what you know, but we're here obviously to help. So we do appreciate when you come in with more of an open mind. So we can let you know what we do and what we specialize in.
Yeah, and we're not here to tell you that we know everything about financial planning, and in fact, we try to make it so simple. We try to take all that stuff out of it, because when we start getting into, when you get into asset allocation and what's the large cap value doing versus mid cap value and the inverted yield curve on the bond interest rate. I mean, people come in and start talking about all that stuff, and we don't need it. It doesn't. When you're doing financial planning, that's like sort of we don't want to know about all that stuff. It's a personal thing. We don't, the nuts and bolts of it, we will get into that, and we know all that stuff, but that's not something, we don't want to sit here for an hour and a half and talk about, what are interest rates going to do, or why is the president saying this, and why does the market do that? I mean, that's stuff we can't control. We want to talk about stuff that we can control.
Yeah.
And just think about it. If you went into your doctor's office and you were going to have an operation, and you went in and you started just peppering him with questions, or telling him you read about this prescription or this new procedure or this, whatever, he would sort of look at you and be like, man, it's not the way it's going to go.
Right.
So emptying your cup, we all have, with the amount of marketing that's going on in these days with, online and radio and TV, we have all these messages that are thrown to us every single day about, don't buy this product, do this, don't do that. We all have pretty full cups. And when you start any new endeavor, it's always good to empty those cups out and just sort of come into a situation with an open mind. So when we have somebody come in with more of an open mind, it just makes the process go a little more, smoother, but it just allows us to do our work in a way that it's more beneficial.
Yeah.
And what we also find is, when you do have those full cups, or we have situations where, people, you read all this stuff and you think all this stuff, that then starts to create, I don't want to say excuses, but there's all these reasons why people can't do things, as opposed to let's just clear the deck, empty the cups, and let's find the reasons why things will work as opposed to why they won't. So that's number one. We find that a lot of times that when you come into our office and you have an empty mind, or not an empty mind, we have an empty mind. You have an empty cup, or maybe just empty it out a little bit. That we can sort of start filling that cup up with things that we see that are going to be helpful to you, as opposed to these 16 different products that you've heard about that you should or shouldn't have, and it's just not going to work. So number one, that was it. Empty those cups. Number two, financial planning, there's very few things in this world that work in a linear fashion, meaning that, you can say, I want to start at point A and I want to get to point B, and it's a straight line. Financial planning is absolutely not like that at all. I mean, there's nothing linear about what we do. It's just not. I mean, the minute we put the data into our financial planning software and we start running projections and things like that, we use certain assumptions. That's all fine and well, but 2 weeks after we do that, it's just not accurate in the fact that it's accurate in the fact that we've put all the right data in and we're still working towards the goal. But things happen in the world, stock markets and bond markets and all the investments that we use. They don't always, if we're using 5% as an interest rate, that's not always on a linear fashion, and that's we have to be mindful of that, and that's why when we do a financial plan for somebody, it's we review it and we update it and we make sure that we're looking at it on more than it's more than a couple of times a year to make sure that we're taking into account that we know that it's not linear. Ryan, what happens, like, just to give you an analogy, like when you go on vacation, if you're leaving you want to drive from here to Ocean City, you're not going 60 miles an hour the whole time, right?
Right, yeah.
What happens with us is we leave our house and we get 10 minutes down the road and my wife's like, oh, did we shut the garage door?
Right.
So what do?
Right.
Turn around and go back, shut the garage door. And then that takes a little bit of time off, and the kids start saying, well, your daughter doesn't do this yet, but what's the next thing that happens? They got to go to the bathroom.
That's right.
They got to stop somewhere.
Yeah, right now she just goes.
Right. You change the diaper. I've changed diapers on the side of the road too. But, so they start wanting to do certain things, and by the time you know it, you get from point A to point B, but it might take 5 hours instead of 4 hours, or you might take a bunch of different detours along the way, but you're still making progress towards that goal, but it's just different, and financial planning is not a linear thing. Investments are not a linear thing. One of the things that, when we look at investments for people and they say, oh, this particular fund has averaged, 8% over the last 20 years. Well, if you look at year-to-year returns, it might average out to 8%, but, some years they're double digits positive, some years it's double digits negative, that plays, the sequence of returns plays just as important role on how things turn out as the average does. So you really need to be mindful of all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to think big picture and meet consistently, because both investments are volatile and life is also volatile.
Yeah. So number one, we talked about, emptying that cup out, clear your mind a little bit and let, just let the things that need to be there and work, and the things that don't really matter or don't apply to you, then don't worry about it. Just an example of that, like a lot of times we'll get people, one of the things, and we say this on almost every podcast that we do a case study on, is people ask about annuities. Yeah, it's just one of those products that, it's a buzzword. Most of the time we don't use them for people, right. But in the cases that we do, they work very well. But if we run through a plan and we find out, that particular product is not the right one for your plan, then why even bother about it? Right. Why worry about, this ad I heard on the radio for this great product? If it's not right for your plan, then, why even let it clog up any space in your head?
Right.
Those are the first two things. And then the last one, and again, there are more than three of these, but we try to manage outcomes as opposed to output. And what do I mean by that? Well, years ago when I used to work at a large insurance company, we had this guy come in and he was going to, sort of revolutionize the way things went. And they had this great financial planning software, and you put all this great data in, and it would print you out about a 70-page report. And you were supposed to sit there and run through that with clients. And I never got past like page 3 or 4 before both of us were like bored to tears. There was a ton of output. And what it made me realize was that, it's not just, we don't, we like the output for us, but for you as a client, we're more interested in showing you what the outcome is, not so much the output. I mean, the output sort of backs up the outcome, but if we're saying, okay, we want to have X amount of dollars saved for, my child to go to college in 10 or 15 years, the outcome we want is that's what we want. We don't really care about how we get there, right?
Right, I agree.
Ryan, with a young daughter, saving for college is maybe on your mind now. I mean, it's, you look at the numbers and say, okay, in 18 years it's going to be, $150,000. Well, you care about what? How much do I have to save, and what rate of return do I have to get, and how do I get to that $150,000, right?
Absolutely. And I have already started.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And, so it's we're looking to manage, and some outcomes that we look to do, if we have a client that has a child with special needs, how do we fund that special needs trust, or how do we make sure that when both parents are gone, that that child is taken care of, so the outcome there is we want to make sure that we're planning for 2 lifetimes. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can to put those outcomes into place, and there's no guarantees, and we can't specifically say we're going to hit every single milestone, but when we've got a goal in mind and we've got all the things in place that we can help to meet those goals, then that helps us get to those outcomes just a little bit better. Some other things are retirement. Big things are people are looking, how much is going to be there with my Social Security, how much for pension, if you have a pension, how much money you're going to have in all these different other accounts that you have. So we're looking, again, to sort of wrap all that up and figure out, what's the outcome going to look like. Retirement, Social Security, special needs. If we have Ryan, you do a lot of work with people that are protecting money from nursing homes.
Right.
What's the outcome there we're looking for?
They're looking for, obviously, not to have to spend down, all their hard-earned assets, usually in a few months' time or a year's time. We're looking to at least protect one spouse to make sure they can keep their cost of living.
Right. And, when we look at things, if you have and this is a very common situation, is a couple will work their whole lives and have, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 saved plus their house. And if one of them gets ill, nursing homes are what? How much? Like
10, I'm probably on the lower side.
10 grand a month, 15,000 a month, and
an average, yeah.
When you start doing the math on something like that, it's you can look and say, well, it's not going to take too long to have those assets drawn down. So what's the outcome we're looking at? We're looking at protecting those protecting those assets and making sure that they're, we're exhausting every avenue to make sure that those assets are protected. We might not be able to do it all, but we can, hopefully do some of it.
Right.
And that's one of those things. So, again, when we sit down to do a financial plan with somebody, we're looking for, we all want to have an open mind, because we don't go into any situation saying, okay, this person comes in the door looking like they need X. We don't know. We don't know exactly what their situation is, and we might not find that out for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 meetings. So we're going into it with an open mind. We're not planning on any sort of linear basis. We're making sure that we know there's going to be hiccups along the way. We know that there's going to be ups and downs. And the third thing, we're looking at, we're working towards outcomes. We're very interested in the output that we provide, but we're also looking at making sure that our eye is always on that financial or personal outcome. So when we go into a situation, those are the things we're looking at. If that sounds like something that sounds good to you, Ryan, describe our process real quickly so that if somebody's listening, they can figure out if they want to sort of kick our tires and see if we're a good fit for them.
Sure. Of course, you can always call us and talk to us a little bit about your situation. I can let you know if you fit in this bucket or not. And what that is our 2-meeting process of where we just get to know you. First meeting is a first date. We gather as much information as we can. Of course, we're also providing you as much value as you can. We ask questions, but there's always something we have to do in the background, always something we have to look up, or maybe we have an answer we can provide for you once you give us an extra statement, whatever that may be. And that along with recommendations all comes in the second meeting. So we'll meet with you in the first meeting, get to know you, talk to you a little bit, gather all the information, and then in the second meeting is where we clean everything up and hopefully answer all your questions, and then decide if you have enough going forward to continue working together.
Right, and that's good. I mean, we always tell people it is like a first date. You know, we're sort of sizing you up and you're sizing us up. The only difference there is we charge. You don't pay for first date, but we do charge for that process. We charge $300, and the reason we do that is because we're not trying to sell you a product. You know, we're trying to put together some ideas and a plan, like a mini overview plan that we think that, you know, when you walk out of our office door on this after our second date, we want to leave you better off than when you started. You know, so that's the process. So if you're interested in that type of relationship, please feel free to get in touch with us, and you know, we're more than happy to talk to you. So thanks for listening to this edition of the Financial Advocate, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks very much.